Very Scary People, the podcast from ID, is back for another season. Christine Belford reports her 3 young daughters missing. She has no idea where they are, but she knows who took them. Her ex-husband teamed up with her former in-laws to do whatever it takes to have total control of the girls, including stalking, harassment, and murder. Listen to Very Scary People, A Family to Fear, wherever you get your podcasts.
Cats have always acted like they're don't stink. Now with Fresh Step Heavy Duty's new 30-day odor control, it actually doesn't. Fresh Step's new heavy-duty litter fights odor 3 times longer than the leading brand. This is Fresh Step's strongest litter ever, giving your litter box 30 days of odor control. Step it up to Fresh Step with the new heavy-duty litter. 3 times claim based on fecal malodor versus the leading regular clumping litter. Strongest litter ever is based on odor control. Febreze is used under license from the Procter & Gamble Company or its affiliates.
Welcome to True Crime Garage. Wherever you are, whatever you are doing, thanks for listening. I'm your host, Nick, and with me, as always, is a man who has been through the desert on a horse with no name. Here is the captain.
He had a name, but we wouldn't tell anybody that name, so we just called him the captain. It's good to be seen and good to see you. Thanks for listening. Thanks for telling a friend.
Today in the garage, we are proudly featuring Zoetic by the fun brewers over at Yellow Springs Brewery. Zoetic is an American pale ale filled with citra hops, some hearty English malt with a nice and easy, clean finish, garage grade 4 out of 5 bottle caps. And let's give some thanks and some cheers to some of our good garage friends for helping us out with this week's beer run. First up, a big cheers to Kimberly Dotseth in San Diego.
And a big we like to jib goes out to Caroline Bryan in Costa Rica.
And cheers to Joy in Lincoln County, Oregon. And last but certainly not least, we had Christy L. in Tualatin, Oregon. Everyone we just mentioned, they went to truecrimegarage.com, clicked on the pint glass, and hooked us up for this week's beer fun.
Yeah, BWERUN beer run. You need more True Crime Garage for your earballs? You know you do. Make sure you subscribe to our bonus content, either through the Apple Podcast app or through Patreon. And Colonel, that's enough of the business.
All right, everybody, gather around, grab a chair, grab a beer. Let's talk some true crime. This week, we dive right back into a haunting case. This is a missing persons case that, as of the last 2 weeks, is heating up in the news. With a recent flurry of online headlines and true crime podcasters who covered the case years ago, as we did, or podcasts that first heard of the case and offered their first presentation last September, when the case hit the news once again. Our original coverage of the Asha Degree missing persons case was back in March of 2021. Episodes 475 and 476. This is when we reminded folks new to the podcast that listeners of True Crime Garage come here to give strength to the victims. And nothing breaks your heart more than a child victim and the parents of that child. Unfortunately, today, we are once again talking about that missing little girl. This is a case that truly refuses to go cold. Due to the efforts of the girl's family, the hard work of law enforcement agencies, both local and federal, and the commitment of a tight-knit community. Beyond listening today, please take a moment to think about and send a blessing, a prayer, or anything from deep down inside of your heart out to this little girl, wherever she is. Little Asha Degree vanished on a cold, rainy night over 20 years ago. She was just 9 years old. Think of her family, who has had to endure so much. Years of questions and heartbreak. Years of being cast into the shadows themselves by people who do not know them, who do not know their family, their history, nor their torture or torment. They need our compassion. This is True Crime Garage. Due to the recent news in the latter part of last year, and with even more details coming out early this year, this is becoming one of the more well-known missing persons cases, with many waiting on more information. And I am here to tell you these investigators from multiple agencies are far beyond driven to find Asha Degree and to make an arrest or arrests. And we will be close. I think we are close, my friends. We keep inching and inching our way, getting closer and closer. Asha Jaquilla Degree was born August 5th, 1990. She was the baby of the family, the little girl in a happy family of four. Mom and dad are Aquila and Harold Degree, and Asha's older brother is O'Brien. We will likely be saying Cleveland a lot today, but make note that we are talking about Cleveland County, North Carolina. This is where Asha lived with her family in Falston, which is just a touch north of the larger city of Shelby, North Carolina. And most of the news is going to be coming out of Shelby. The day in question that we're going to be talking about here, Captain, will be February 14th, 2000, Valentine's Day. That is the day that Asha went missing. As of 2 weeks ago, Asha has now been missing for 25 years. The Degree family of four lived on Oakcrest Street. Shelby is located between two big cities, Charlotte and Asheville. The population of Shelby back in 2000 was just under 20,000 people. This is a somewhat rural area, likely what most would consider to be rural. Asha is described as timid, quiet, and shy. She was a good student. There were no known issues at school with her behavior, with her attitude, or her schoolwork. No known issues at home either. And by all accounts and all appearances, she had a happy life. Asha was in the 4th grade at Falston Elementary School. Asha was quite the athlete as well. She excelled at basketball and was a pretty badass little point guard. Now let's go back just a couple of days before Asha disappeared.
On our timeline, we're going to start on Friday, February 11th.
On this day, there was no school. This was a teacher work day with no school for the students. Both of Asha's parents worked full-time jobs, so same applies. It's a parents' work day with no school for the kids. But Mom Aquila worked at a manufacturing plant. This is in nearby Lincoln Town. She worked the first shift. Her husband, Harold, worked the second shift at PPG Industries in Shelby. Asha and O'Brien spent a good portion of that Friday at their Aunt Keisha's house. This is just down the street from the Degree household. So it's the same neighborhood as Asha's family. And in fact, from my understanding here, Captain, a lot of the larger family lived in this neighborhood or lived very close to where Asha and her family lived. Later that Friday, Asha has basketball practice. As said, she's kind of the star of her school's Little Bulldogs girls basketball team. Next, we go to Saturday, February 12th, 2000. Now, at this time of year, Saturdays were largely reserved for the kids' basketball games. Those were held on Saturdays. Saturdays were basketball and Sundays were church for the Degree family. On this typical Saturday, both Asha and her older brother O'Brien had basketball games that took place at Burns Middle School. Asha's team was undefeated going into the game, but on this day, the team struggled. And Asha fouled out late in the game, and the team received their first loss of the season. Asha was upset to the point of crying, but so did some of her teammates. A lot of her crying during this basketball game or afterwards, a lot has been made of that over these years, but keep in mind, they're little kids. They experienced their first loss, and she was not the only girl on the team to get emotional about the loss. That night, Asha went to a sleepover party at her 15-year-old cousin's house. This was a fairly large slumber party, and I saw a report that says that there was like a dozen kids at this slumber party, mostly cousins. And they stayed up late watching TV, hanging out, dancing, just having a great time.
Let's jump to Sunday, February 13th.
Harold, Aquila, and O'Brien picked Asha up early that morning to go to church. Harold says Asha attended Bible study classes every Sunday. The Degree's church was the Macedonia Baptist Church. This is in Waco, North Carolina, not terribly far from their home. After church, the Degree family of 4 went to their cousin Shalonda Brown's home. A bunch of family were there together after church, including Grandma, who handed out some Valentine's Day gifts to the kiddos. After this family gathering, Asha, Mom, and Dad, and Big Brother, they all went home. Due to her late night slumber party just the night before, Asha was very tired, so she fell asleep quite early. This would be around 6:30 p.m. Then a pretty loud and ferocious thunderstorm hit the area around 8 p.m. that Sunday night. Around the same time, Asha wakes up. So we got some thunder, we got some lightning, and we got someone nearby smashing into a utility pole, knocking out the power in the neighborhood. This around 9 p.m. So you got some young kids in the house. It's late enough. The power's out. It's time for bed. There's school the next day. Valentine's Day is the next day, which is also a Monday. And this should have been a happy day for many reasons. Valentine's Day, but most importantly, it will also be Harold and Aquila's 12th wedding anniversary. And when I review this part of this true crime story here, Captain, this is where I feel like I just got punched in the gut. It's
right.
It's like a freaking bowling ball is in my stomach right now. We all know the sequence. You fall in love, you get married because you're in love, you get married because you want to build a family, you want to have kids, and on your wedding anniversary, your little baby girl goes missing. And it's been 25 wedding anniversaries and your baby's still gone. Now, reports say that power kicked back on just after midnight. The kids and Aquila are in their beds. It's said that Harold checked on the kids around this time, like midnight to maybe 12:30-ish. Then he watched TV sitting on the couch in the living room. He says that at 2:30 a.m. is about the time that he shut off the TV. He checks on his kids again, just looks in the room. Asha and O'Brien are sleeping peacefully in their beds at this time. And he went to the master bedroom and he falls asleep pretty quickly. Asha shared a room with her older brother. From my understanding, Captain, it's a 2-bedroom dwelling.
Right.
Sometime during the night, we don't get a great timestamp for this activity here. But sometime during that night, O'Brien says that he woke up. When he's up briefly, he doesn't get out of bed, but he's awake in his bed, and very briefly, he says he hears his sister Asha moving around. Now, he would tell his family and police later that he thought that she was just tossing and turning in her sleep. Then he says that he heard her get up, and he assumed that she was going to go to the restroom. Now, some of the reports out there differ on whether he ever heard her return or not. Some say that he heard her return. Others say not. It's believed that this would be about 3 a.m. or so. I think it's probably a little bit later. Now, in hindsight, we would have to believe that the noise that he is hearing is actually Asha getting up, getting out of bed, getting dressed, and packing up some of her things in the early morning hours.
I think one of the things that is shocking about this case is how standard a lot of these events are. We've all experienced having a power outage due to weather or due to the weather causing maybe an accident. And then this standard practice of a mother or father staying up past the time their kids go to bed and then doing the check to make sure everything in the house is okay before I go to bed. And then also the standard practice, whether you're a child or you're a parent, hearing somebody else in the house moving midnight in the middle of the night. And then whether you hear them resettle back into bed or maybe you doze off beforehand, we have all shared these experiences. But what's coming next in the timeline is something that none of us will probably ever experience in our lifetime.
It's about as abnormal and strange as you could imagine. So apparently, Asha, she got dressed, packed up her book bag, and slipped out of the house into the dark, rainy early morning. Asha is believed to have been wearing a white shirt, white jeans, and white Nike tennis shoes. She did not bring a coat with her. She did not bring a hat with her. Keep in mind, it's raining out. But an inventory of her belongings found that she had taken the following items. So she packed up a book bag, and these are the items that it's listed that she took with her. A black Tweety Bird pocketbook, candies that she received at her basketball game on that Saturday, her house key, clothing. So she took some clothing with her. It's a red vest with black trim, blue jeans with a red stripe on each side, a white nylon long sleeve shirt, a black and white long sleeve shirt, and black overalls with Tweety Bird on it. When we're looking at this, at one time, it was listed that she possibly also took with her a white nightgown, the one that she wore to bed that night, and that she possibly took with her basketball uniform. Now, on the basketball uniform, that would later be confirmed, but not until over a decade later that the basketball uniform was something that she took with her.
Right.
So she's last seen inside her home at approximately 2:30 a.m. on February 14th, 2000. Asha's father, when he went to sleep, that's about the time that he said that he saw his daughter asleep in her bed when he checked on them. Asha's mother wakes up. She went to the kids' bedroom at approximately 6:30 a.m. She's going to go there to wake up the children for school. She discovers that Asha is not in her bed at that time. Asha's school, she goes to Falston Elementary, is located almost exactly 5 miles north of their home. Both her street, Oakcrest Street, and her school are almost directly off of Highway 18. Highway 18 is a predominantly 2-lane rural highway that travels 145 miles. In this area, it is also known as Falston Road. The Degree family lived at 3404 Oakcrest Street. Oakcrest Street is 1 block west of Highway 18. The Degree's residence faces west. Oakcrest Street looks like it would be a rather quiet street. There's only about 18 houses. There are single-family homes that back up to the houses on Oakcrest and Asha's side of the street. So these are single-family homes along the western side of Highway 18. These houses and homes on Oakcrest, they are all spaced out nicely so they are not all cramped together.
Am I wrong to assume that she didn't walk to school because of the distance being 5 miles or more?
Correct. She rode the bus to school.
So that's another confusing thing. If she was heading to her school, why would she walk there? Because that's not her typical routine.
Well, I'm giving the lay of the land to point out that if she was heading to her school, if that was her intention, she was going in the wrong direction.
Right.
So soon after this, there will be a sighting of someone matching Asha's general description walking alongside of Highway 18, again, also called Falston Road. The evidence says that the child left her home on foot in the middle of the night. Let's ruminate on that for just a second. If you've not heard of this story before, it's a 9-year-old little girl left the house on her own in the middle of the night, and her reasons for leaving are not clear at all.
Well, and that's one of the biggest questions in this case for me is why did Asha leave in the middle of the night? And then I think the caveat to that question would be, how do we know that she left on her own? We have this eyewitness report, but we have seen in many other cases eyewitness reports not being factual.
Upon this discovery, Captain, the family calls 911. The call came in at 6:38 a.m., and the first police officer on the scene, he was there by 6:40. And by 6:42, we have Sheriff Dan Crawford arrived. He's in charge. He immediately calls for a canine unit. Her parents say they found all of the doors in the house locked. And according to the sheriff, there was no sign of forced entry into the home. Asha and O'Brien rode the bus to and from school each day. When they would get home, Mom and Dad were both at work at this time. So both kids had a key to the house. Asha kept hers in her book bag. If she did leave on her own accord, it looks like she packed up her book bag, left the house, and because they found all of the doors locked, we can presume that she used her key to then lock the door behind her. Newspaper reporters and television crews were out front of the Degree house in the early morning hours. By 2 p.m., we have agents from the North Carolina State Bureau of Investigation had arrived at the home. Asha's father, Harold, in a telephone interview with the Charlotte Observer, said Asha had never run away before and that there were no family problems that would make his daughter want to leave. The newspaper gives a description of Asha, listing her as 4 foot 6 inches tall, weighing about 65 pounds. She is African American and wears her hair in pigtails. And if anybody's seen pictures of Asha, these pigtails cannot go unnoticed. By the end of the day, by the end of that Valentine's Day, Captain, police and search and rescue efforts, they had covered 3 miles wide, but found nothing. And unfortunately, the search dogs did not pick up Asha's scent. But we do get a couple of eyewitnesses. 2 truck drivers reported seeing a girl matching Asha's description walking south on Highway 18 north of Shelby between 3:30 a.m. and 4:15 a.m. That's why I wanted to go through the information about her school. Because, as we said earlier, if her intention was to walk to her school, she was going in the opposite direction. And Asha was apparently near the intersection of Highway 118 at the time of these eyewitness sightings. This is a mile from her home. In fact, some of the information I found, Captain, states that it was 1.3 miles from her home. So she made it a good distance before people spot her there walking alongside of this country highway. Now, what's interesting about these eyewitnesses, it's 2 different reports. So both sightings were on Highway 18 near the 180 intersection. And the fact that 2 men called into police independently, each unaware of what the other reported, made both statements incredibly credible. But as far as Valentine's Day, February 14th goes, that's it. That's all the information we have regarding that day. These poor parents wake up. Mom wakes up and finds that her little girl is gone. Calls police. Police are on the scene looking for this girl, looking for her throughout the area. And the alarm is raised so much so that news reporters are showing up that same day. And everybody's wondering, where the heck did this little girl go? This message is sponsored by Greenlight. Who taught you about money? Was it your parents? Your school? Let's be honest. Most of us learned about saving and budgeting way later than we should have. But here's the good news. You can give your kids a head start with Greenlight. Greenlight is a debit card and money app made for families that lets kids learn how to save, invest, and spend wisely. Parents can send money to their kids and keep an eye on kids' spending and saving. The Greenlight app even includes a chores feature where you can set up one-time or reoccurring chores, customized to your household, and reward kids with allowance for a job well done. I love Greenlight because it's a debit card and money app that gives the power to the people. It is our job, our responsibility as parents to teach our children how to be financially smart and wise. The schools will not do it. Greenlight is the most powerful tool I know of to help you teach your kids how to be financially safe and smart. Start your risk-free Greenlight trial today at greenlight.com/garage. That's greenlight.com/garage to get started. greenlight.com/garage. Is your child struggling with a specific subject or need help with homework? IXL Learning is an online learning program for kids. It covers math, language arts, science, and social studies. If your child is struggling, this is the smartest investment you can make. A single hour of tutoring costs more than a month of IXL. One subscription gets you everything. IXL is used in 96 of the top 100 school districts in the U.S. IXL is comprehensive K through 12 curriculum, and it's trusted by educators and parents, including educators and parents that I know. I have friends that use IXL during the summer months to keep their kids on track or to get ahead. It's immersive learning. 1 in 4 students use IXL for academic help and enrichment. Empower your kid today with IXL. Make an impact on your child's learning. Get IXL now. And True Crime Garage listeners can get an exclusive 20% off IXL membership when they sign up today at IXL.com/garage. Visit IXL.com/garage to get the most effective learning program out there at the best price.
This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. Who's your support system, and how have they changed your life? One of the biggest parts of my support system in my community is my therapist. Let's think about our favorite leaders, mentors, and idols. They don't have all the answers, but they know when to ask questions or to seek support from their community. In a society that glorifies hyper-independence, it's easy to forget we're all better when we have a support system behind us. Therapy can be a source of support for any area of your life. It's time to shift the focus from doing it all to knowing that we're better when we ask for help. BetterHelp is fully online, making therapy affordable and convenient, serving over 5 million people worldwide. Access a diverse network of more than 30,000 credentialed therapists with a wide range of specialties. Easily switch therapists anytime at no extra cost. Build your support system with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/garage to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/garage. This show is proudly sponsored by BetterHelp.
Want the fastest working GLP-1 for half the list price? Roe's got you. Roe now offers FDA-approved weight loss vials for half the list price of auto-injector pens, without applying insurance or savings cards, and with results you can see faster. Your Roe-affiliated provider can help you understand if GLP-1s are right for you and your goals. But that's just the beginning. Roe members have support throughout the process. Plus, you can sign up online from the comfort of your own home. That means no waiting for an in-person doctor's appointment, no commute to the doctor's office, and no waiting rooms. Weight loss, faster. Confidence, higher. Price, cheaper. Join the over 385,000 people who have already chosen Roe to access GLP-1s. Go to roe.co/garage to see if you qualify. That's ro.co/garage. row.co/garage. Go to row.co/safety for boxed warning and full safety information about GLP-1 medications. Medication indicated with diet and exercise.
All right, we are back. Cheers, mates, to the windows, to the walls, tall cans in the air. Cheers to you, Colonel.
To the walls, to the windows.
Yeah.
Cheers to you, Captain.
February 14th, 2000. You wake up, your kid is gone. My first thought, if I'm her parents, is somebody took our daughter. And maybe what I was hearing in the middle of the night wasn't my daughter just getting up to use the restroom, but it was possibly somebody in the house taking my daughter. But then we get multiple eyewitness reports seeing this little girl walking on her own in the rain and not great weather. It's February 14th. It can't be that warm. I'm sure it wasn't freezing or anything, but because they're in North Carolina, but it's not the summer. And so you have all these eyewitness reports. And like you said, one eyewitness report is troubling. When you have multiple eyewitness reports, those stories start backing up one another. So then as the parent, you have to be thinking, why did she leave on her own? What was the purpose? And I think we can actually rule out confusion because she's headed in the wrong direction. She doesn't walk to school. So none of this makes sense with her typical routine. You could make an argument to me if she did walk to school and she was walking in the correct direction, that maybe she woke up early and was just confused or possibly half sleepwalking and packed up her stuff and was heading to school like she normally did. But again, these are not normal movements or actions by Asha.
3 days later, after the disappearance, so now we're at February 17th, a pencil, marker, and yellow hair bow with a bear on it were discovered on the ground in a doorway of a tool shed. This is at Turner's Upholstery on Highway 18. So this is the same stretch of road where she had been spotted by the two truck drivers independently. Her belongings were found near this stretch of road. So this is more than a mile from Asha's residence, right? It's almost exactly where one of the truckers spotted a little girl walking on the side of the road. The Turners, who own this land, they owned an old outbuilding. The outbuilding has no lock on it. It doesn't even have a door.
Right.
And the reports are that this outbuilding is approximately 300 feet, maybe a little more, from the roadway. And they use this outbuilding to store supplies for their upholstery business. This discovery is interesting. When they checked this shed, they found an odd assortment of items. So it was a green marker, a 1996 Atlanta Olympics pencil, a yellow hair bow, some cellophane candy wrappers, and then the strangest item of all, and we'll get to this in just a second, is a wallet-sized photo of a little girl, not of Asha Degree, of some other little girl that might be, to me, I've seen the photo, looked at it 100 times. It looks to me to be a girl that is approximately about the same age as Asha, which makes it even more bizarre.
Right.
But so these items, while they seem pretty random, here's a couple things about this case and this true crime story that stand out beyond other stories. So first, it's easy. It would be easy for anybody to go, you know what? Okay, those truckers were trying to do something nice. They called in some information to the sheriff's department, but how do we know that they saw Asha? We don't know that 100%. But let's think about it for a second. When two different people call in seeing a little girl walking on the side of the road at like 4:15, 4:30 in the morning, how many little girls are walking alongside of the road at 4:15, 4:30 a.m.? They're not. It's not like a parade of little kids are walking at that time of day. So it's an easy leap to say that that was Asha. Both of those eyewitnesses say that she was alone. In fact, one of them was concerned that she might get hit. And one of the truck drivers says that when I passed her, I thought that it was just a small woman. But after the missing persons report goes out to the public, hey, we're looking for this little girl, it clicked, and he goes, no, that was a little girl that I saw. One of the truckers says that he was so concerned that she was walking so close to the road, and it's a highway, so it's a high-speed road. He turned around because he was worried that the person would get hit. Let's examine these items. Here's the second part of this. You could go, well, these items may have something to do with the case. They may have nothing to do with the case.
Correct.
But we have her parents that say those items were my daughter's. And so this 1996 Atlanta Olympics pencil, they had visited, the family took a trip to Atlanta not too long before her going missing. And I don't mean like days. I mean, this would have been months, maybe even a year or so. But they're saying that is an item that was purchased while they were there, amongst other items. And this hair bow is distinctive, right? It's got a bear on it. It's yellow. They're saying that's our daughter's. And then furthermore, they believe that the cellophane candy wrappers that were found matches the candy that was given to her that weekend.
Right, at the basketball game. And again, these are things that we have all experienced. When you're a child and you visit the Empire State Building or something like that, and your parents buy you a souvenir pencil, that pencil is important for some weird reason. And it's one that you don't want to sharpen. And so this would be an item that her parents would remember, or the fact that she got candy at the basketball game and they remember what kind of candy. And then you got this green marker. What doesn't make sense in these items? I hear the whole scenario where the parents say, well, these items match what our daughter would have. Okay, so now that makes it relevant to this case. My issue with these items is that picture of this unknown girl.
I said it in the trailer leading into the story today. Our original coverage of the Asha Degree case was from March of 2021, episodes 475 and 476 on your garage radio dial. And so I'm not going to harp on it here because we have a lot of stuff that we need to get to. But if you want to hear me rant and rave about how angry this next portion of the case made me, those episodes are there available for free for anybody to listen to. So let's talk about this photograph, right? February 24th. This photograph is found on the 17th. I feel very confident stating that the sheriff's department probably wanted to do their due diligence to make sure that these items had anything to do with the case at all, number one. And then number two, how significant are they to the case? So what could they mean? They probably wanted to run a little bit of investigation on it before making this well known to the public. But on the 24th of February, so she's been gone 10 days now by this point, the Charlotte Observer runs a news article containing this mystery photograph that was found in the shed along with Asha's belongings. So as far as this photograph goes, the people that own the building, this little shed, they don't know the person in the photograph, the kid in the photograph. They say they've never seen it before. And so we're making an assumption that because Asha left other items there, this photograph may have been with her and she may have left that there.
Right.
So if in fact that would be the case, we need to figure out if anybody knows anything about this photograph. Who's the little girl in the photograph? So the Charlotte Observer, and this is one of those tight ropes that we have to walk here, because while I want to commend them for actually running an article, I also have to blast them at the same time because of their handling of it. They ran an article titled, "Do You Know This Girl?" And they showed the picture, that little wallet-sized photograph of the little girl. Do you know this girl? They ran the story at the bottom of page 75. Thanks. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, that helps.
Because when I get the newspaper, I know nobody gets the newspaper anymore, but I used to love reading the box scores. When I used to get the newspaper, that's the first thing I turn to is page 75 to see what the hell's going on. So again, page 75, it was that day's newspaper. I found that day's newspaper. It's 108 pages. They could, might as well put it on, it might have been better to put it on page 107. I don't know, but that seems ridiculous. So regardless,
completely
we're going to
ridiculous. And on top of that, we have a missing child.
9 years old. It's not
9
a
years old.
17-year-old.
Put it on the front page, you piece of shit. You're a piece of shit publication if you're not putting that on page 1.
Right. No, I understand what you're saying, and I'm just as angry as you, but I do also want to point out that the Charlotte Observer ran the article. Nobody else did.
Right.
Nobody else did. They're a little lower on the piece of shit scale than every other publication out there.
Still in the pile, though, my friend. Still in the pile.
August 3rd, 2001. Again, we're going to have to move along this timeline a little faster and less detailed than we did in our original coverage. I can't stress this enough. If you have enough time, review those older episodes because there's going to be a lot that we discussed and talked about on those 2 episodes that we can't get to in this week's coverage. So now we're at August 3rd, 2001. We have a gentleman named Terry Fleming. He's the owner of Precision Grading. He's working at a construction site. This is in Burke County. So Burke County is a neighboring county of Cleveland County, North Carolina. While there, his team uncovers a trash bag. They look to see what's in the trash bag. Thank God they did.
Yeah.
Could you imagine?
Some people just throw it away.
Throw it in there. So they look inside the trash bag. They find a book bag. Now, this may mean nothing most of the time to anybody, but the book bag has Asha Degree's name and phone number on it. This story, even though we're at a neighboring county, Burke County, this story was not a quiet story. Asha Degree in this area is known as Shelby's sweetheart. Everybody in this area, maybe even region, by this time knew who Asha Degree was. Everybody's looking for her. And so they find this book bag. It's got her name and telephone number written on it. It's buried off of Highway 18. This is the same highway that she was spotted on. It's found roughly 18 months after she disappeared. The book bag had been found double wrapped in 2 black plastic trash bags. And it's found more than 26 miles from the family's home in the complete different direction, the opposite direction of where the girl had been seen walking.
Yeah.
And this spot where they find these double bag trash bag with the book bag in it is about 50 yards off of the highway. Here is a full description of what was found in the bag after it's turned over to police. Now, and I do want to say this. I don't think officially there's ever been a full inventory that's been released to the public, but this is what we could find and what we've triple checked here. We have Asha's black book bag, a black Tweety Bird purse or pocketbook. Again, these are 2 items that we knew were missing from her room at the time of her disappearance. They also found a pair of blue jeans with red stripe. They found black sneakers, a long-sleeved white t-shirt with purple lettering, a red vest with black trim, black overalls with Tweety Bird on them, and a long-sleeved black and white shirt, and Asha's house key. After this finding, investigators announced that they considered Asha's disappearance to be a criminal matter, and foul play was suspected. Here's a statement from the sheriff. He says several drivers witnessed her walking south along North Carolina Highway 18 around 4 a.m. or a little after, but did not alert police. Her parents reported her missing a few hours later when they woke up and found Asha's bed empty. More than a year later, her book bag was discovered buried along the same highway where she was last seen walking. Based on our investigation, we have reason to believe that individuals in this community or the surrounding area have knowledge of or information pertaining to the disappearance of Asha. Detectives say that the Degrees have always cooperated with the investigation and have, quote, bent over backwards, end quote, to help find their daughter. They allowed authorities to search their home and insisted on polygraph examinations, which they all passed. Sheriff Crawford put it, and this is one thing that we need to hit home here, because there are people that are following this case and they know where a lot of this is going. There are people that have followed this case through the ups and downs of the investigation throughout the 25 years. And then there are people that they know of the case a little bit, but they don't know about any of the new information. There has been a good deal of speculation about the family, about Asha's family over the years on the internet. A lot of people throwing shade on either the mother, the father, or both. Sheriff Crawford, who would know this case better than any of us on this podcast, anybody listening to it, and anybody on the internet, Sheriff Crawford said, quote, there was no and is no evidence whatsoever to indicate this mother or father or child are responsible for Asha's disappearance. So scrub the internet, if you could, of any of that speculation, because it's getting in the way of finding the truth.
If I'm law enforcement in this case, I'm wondering so many things. One, why did these eyewitnesses not contact the authorities right away? You see a little child walking by herself. Why aren't you calling authorities right away? But also because we have multiple eyewitnesses that place this girl outside of her house and she's not in the company of her parents. And like you said, they've been cooperative with law enforcement. They take polygraph tests, search our house, do whatever you need to do. You want to look into us? That's fine. And that's how it should be. In all these cases, these people that go, I don't know why law enforcement's looking into us. Well, because everybody's a suspect until you're not, until we can rule you in or rule you out. But I keep coming back to the idea of, where was she going? Why was she going there? And because of her age, you then have to question, was she heading in the right direction of where she thought she was going?
Yeah, the thing here is the Degrees from my 30,000 foot view of the Degree family, they're family-centric people. We can see this in the short timeline that we went through. They spend a lot of time with the larger part of their family. The kids do, the parents do, everybody does.
Yeah.
There were in the matter of 3 days, there were 2 events that had a bunch of family coming together. So they're family-centric people. And likely some of their extended family attend the same church. So that might be all 3 days they hung out with some of their family. Now, they're God-fearing people. They attend church. They didn't just cooperate with the investigation. According to the sheriff's words, they insisted on being tested, on having that polygraph conducted. You can do this if you want. I will warn you, it may ruin your day. There's interviews with the parents online. It might ruin your day, because that's how you can see it plain as day on their faces, how heartbroken they are. And then this part of the story, look, it's been over a year. Your kid's missing, but from what the evidence is telling you and what the sheriff is telling you, like, hey, we got some people that spotted your daughter walking by herself on the side of the road. As a parent, you're still holding out hope at this point.
Right.
Maybe there's a chance she walks somewhere and for some reason she's shacked up with some nice family somewhere or what have you. Like, there's been stranger stories out there, but the finding of this backpack and her personal belongings inside of it, 26 miles away from her home in the opposite direction And it's no question that it's hers. Her name and phone number are on it. All of these items are items that you told the sheriff was missing from her room the morning that you found that she was gone. That's crushing. It's absolutely crushing.
Yeah, and maybe some of these items you can dismiss and say they don't belong to Asha, but the house key, you're not getting around that evidence. I don't know if it's the fact that it's double bagged or that it's found, because I don't think it's, and maybe correct me if I'm wrong, it's found like in a construction area, but I don't think there's like,
so it was buried. It was buried either purposefully or it was tossed and over time had been covered up. But the description is that it was two pretty standard black trash bags like most of us have in our homes. Not little grocery sacks, the big black trash bags, and double bagged, and when found by the construction people, it was buried. Now, could they have been moving earth around? Yes, they absolutely were.
Sure.
Maybe did they bury it on accident and then recover it later? Could be. We don't know. But what we do know is whether it was buried or not, somebody was attempting to discard and get rid of these items 26 miles away from north of the family's home.
Well, and like you said, you're hopeful that you're going to get some weird but positive outcome. Your law enforcement, you're going, well, we don't have all the answers and we don't have details, but we have a good idea now, and it's bad. It's real bad. And think about that if you're law enforcement. Okay, now we know it's bad. Well, we got to keep digging. We got to keep going down this rabbit hole. And guess what? It's just going to get worse. Everything that we find from here on out will just get worse.
Well, in 2015, it was decided that there would be, so they put together, we're going to start the investigation all over in 2015, and we're going to pull out all the stops. We're going to have every resource available to us. We got new technology. It's all hands on deck. So in 2015, they're doing good old fashioned detective work, a lot of leg work, and what that leads to is a possible lead. Now, where this lead comes from, the extent of the details are still a little confusing, and I don't think we know everything that was said to police or by how many people. But here is the version of what was released to the public. In 2015, the reinvestigation, if you will, turned up another possible lead that Asha may have been seen getting into a dark green or green 1970s model Lincoln Continental Mark VI or Ford Thunderbird with rust around the wheel wells. Okay, those two cars look very similar. So I think we're just getting a general description here, but she goes missing in 2000. This is a 1970s model vehicle. So it's going to stick out. It's going to stick out.
Well, and also the color. The color is not a normal color. So it's going to be a smaller percentage of these vehicles that even existed.
The FBI publicly announced this lead in 2016. So they held on to this information wherever it came from, and they worked it quietly to see what they could do with it. And then when we see this happen, what it tells me about the investigation, Captain, is that they hit every dead end that they could with this lead. And they said, you know what, now we got to release this to the public. So what they did was they released this information to the public along with images of those vehicle models at that color to try to, spark someone's memory. I don't know when. But this information that says Asha may have been seen getting into a green 1970s car, at some point it morphed into she was seen getting pulled into a car. Anybody that's spent more than 15 minutes listening to this show throughout the years or any other true crime show, you know that are two very different things, getting into a car and getting pulled into a car.
And for anybody that's listened to True Crime Garage for over 15 minutes, we want to we want to publicly apologize to you and publicly thank you.
Yes.
So thank you.
You are kind and understanding. 2018, Captain.
Yes, sir.
We get an announcement, okay, that along with the other items that we discussed that were found in that black trash bag that was located over a year after she disappeared, they also recovered a t-shirt. Now, when we covered this in 2001, the way that I reported it was that they had recovered a concert t-shirt featuring the boy band New Kids on the Block and a children's book, McElligot's Pool by Dr. Seuss.
Mm-hmm.
Neither belonged to Asha. That was the statement from police. So again, this is a situation where they knew in 2001 that these items didn't belong to the little girl. They're working it or trying to figure out if we can connect these to somebody's home or to some individual, we have got the best lead, the best break in the case that we will have yet to date. We might even have the person that is responsible for her disappearance.
Well, and what's nice is even if somebody doesn't come forward, because by coming forward, it might lead law enforcement to the fact that you're a criminal. But even if somebody doesn't come forward, you can then test these items.
And I want to clear up something here, though, because I feel I was irresponsible to call this a concert t-shirt when we covered it in 2021. And I know I spent a good deal of time working and trying to figure out this concert t-shirt. I was convinced that maybe we could even track it down to a specific concert or a specific group of concerts, because you go to concerts and sometimes they will make a shirt specifically for that night or specifically for that stop or at the very least specifically for that tour. Upon further research, I spent a lot of time with this shirt again, leading up to our coverage the second time around. And the best I can tell with this shirt, it's actually referred to as a nightgown or a sleep shirt. And if you look at the pictures available, it's clearly that. It's something that was designed for a little girl. It's going to hang down, above the knee, but much lower than a shirt would. And it looks like something that a little kid would wear to bed, a little girl would wear to bed. But it's a pretty generic shirt. So it looks like it was either made for a tour, or anybody that's my age has a good understanding of how big New Kids on the Block were back when I was a little boy. They were huge. You could not go into a home that had a young girl living there. A lot of my buddies' sisters or a lot of my cousins, they all had New Kids on the Block posters in their rooms. They had all the tapes, the cassette tapes. They were huge. It actually looks, and I've been tracking this online, I actually think it's a quite generic shirt. Because they were so big, I actually think this was one that was printed and sold in department stores so that mom and dad or whomever could buy this for their daughter. And it almost gives off the feel of like, oh, you got something unique, or you got something that's maybe even from one of the tours. But I don't think that it is. I think that it's a pretty generic shirt that was sold in department stores. I even found somebody online that said that they had thought that they purchased the same shirt by mail or order, but we're talking many, many moons ago, my friends.
Right.
The best I can tell, and going off of memory here, I didn't spend a whole lot of time dissecting New Kids on the Block, but they were huge from like 89 to 91, 92.
Yeah. I just remember one Christmas, they were so popular that our grandma bought you a couple of their tapes. I think it was like their Hanging Tough tape and then like their Christmas album. And I still remember you opening them up and looking over. And and the the extreme disappointment
confused.
on your face of why would she buy me these? I'm not into New Kids on the Block, but they were so big that I think people just thought, oh, well, if you get a kid the New Kids on the Block tape or t-shirt or whatever, they're going to love it.
So let's expand on this a little bit here. I was like 9, maybe even younger, I don't know, but I was way into Guns N' Roses, Def Leppard, Aerosmith. That's what I was listening, and Bon Jovi, listening to a lot of that stuff. And here's what I've been able to deduce over the years, because this was a mystery to me for many years when I was young. I figured that my parents probably told my grandparents when they asked for Christmas ideas, oh, what is he into? They probably said, oh, he listens to a lot of music. And so grandparents go to the store, helpful store clerk says, what are you looking for? They say, well, I don't know. My grandson is 8 or 9 years old. What's he into? He's into music. Oh, well, come over here. We have some New Kids on the Block cassettes. And so I'm convinced that that's how I received those gifts. And as confused and weird as the moment was, it actually paid off quite good, because all the girls at school listened to New Kids on the Block. Not all of them had the cassettes. So I now became the boy that was willing to lend them out to the different girls.
Yeah.
Which gave me,
lend them out to the girls or lend them out to your little baby bro so he could hang tough in his room.
Sparked up a lot of conversations with cute young girls that I wanted to talk to back in my day. Now,
yeah, I changed my name to Donnie for a couple years.
With this shirt, the best I can tell is that from my little internet investigation, it was printed in either 1989 or 1990. That's the consensus that I can find. So probably being sold in stores 90, 91 at the latest. They're going to move on and sell new shirts. They're not going to keep selling the same old shirt, because you want these kids to buy 5 New Kids on the Block shirts, not just one. This is critical here because Asha was 9 when she left her home in 2000.
Right.
Even if this shirt's being sold in 91 or 92, she's 1.5. This is not her shirt. And her parents say that this is not her shirt. But we don't learn from police that this shirt even exists, that it was found in the black trash bag with the book bag or even inside of the book bag until 2018. The other part of this is this Dr. Seuss book. The sheriff's department have said this book did not belong to Asha. However, the book came from her school. And upon further investigation, they figured out that Asha did not check the book out. Now, there is enough mystery here without trying to sort through every single piece of this. Now, these could be very crucial parts of the investigation. I get that. I'm not just trying to move past them. But these are items that we spent a good deal of time on in those other episodes. The thing here is with this book, the longer and the more I think about this book, I think it's very likely that she got the book from her school library and that it's just an oversight. That's the only thing that makes sense. And I think it might make more sense once we get to some more information.
Yeah, there's many possibilities. Or a friend of hers checked it out from the library and she was going to borrow it for the night and bring it back.
The other part of this too is the New Kids on the Block shirt. So investigators released images of the shirt and the book in 2018, hoping to jog the memories of people who may have some helpful information in this case. The image of the book, it's not the actual book that they found. So keep in mind that the image of the shirt you're seeing is likely not the exact shirt that was found.
Right.
It's probably stock footage, or they found a picture of it on the internet and used that picture. So those 2 pictures, you're not seeing what was actually found. So what state could that shirt have been in? Could there have been evidence on that shirt? Could there have been blood on that shirt? Could it have had rips or tears in it?
And again, it's common that law enforcement is going to hold back some of this information.
In 2020, working with the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, NCMEC, the FBI released multiple age-progressed photographs of Asha. And so we have, in 2020, they release what NCMEC believes she may look like at the age of 29 years old. At the same time, the FBI was offering up $25,000 as a reward. This was on top of the $20,000 that was set aside by the Cleveland County Sheriff's Office in the community. So now the reward for information in this case, $45,000. Last year, I was lucky enough to tour the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children's office in Virginia. And one part of that tour was where they do these age-progressed images. And it was fascinating to learn from the artists there how they do it and what they choose to include and what they choose to not include in all of these images. If anybody ever gets the opportunity to do so, it's not open to the public, it's invite only, but they are there to serve the public. So it's not like they keep their doors closed and locked and everybody's shut out. We'll continue to get into the new information regarding the disappearance of Asha Degree. But if anybody has any information about Asha Degree, about this case, anything at all, even if you think it's nothing, call it in. Phone it in. Please call the tip line at 704-672-6100 or call the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children at 1-800-THE-LOST. That's 1-800-THE-LOST.
So much more to get to in this case. Stick around for part 2. Until then, be good, be kind, and don't litter.
Where'd you get those shoes? DSW has all the shoes you need for whatever you're into. You know, like running shoes that give new meaning to personal best. Or everyday sneakers that make coffee runs look cool. Basically, DSW has all the best styles from the brands that always get it right. Like Nike, Brooks, Timberland, and more. Oh yeah, did we mention they also happen to be the perfect price? Find a shoe for every you at your DSW store and DSW.com.